Fulton County Sheriff Patrick Labat said if Trump is indicted, which by the way, we know he will be indicted by the Fulton County grand jury, he's going to receive zero special treatment, which means mugshots and also fingerprints, something we have not seen previous. Let's put him up full mass. And naturally, this conversation is centered around the reality of Donald Trump, as predicted, being indicted again by the Department of Justice. I do predict that Trump will be indicted likely this week or next week by the Fulton County grand jury officially. That's the sheriff who's in charge of Fulton County, Patrick Labat. He said on Tuesday that if former President Donald Trump were to be indicted in connection with efforts to overturn the 2020 election in the state, he would not receive special treatment and would be booked and photographed just like any other defendant. The Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie T. Willis has signaled that she will bring indictments in the matter by the middle of the month. Unless someone tells me differently, Labat said on Tuesday, his office would follow normal practices, and so it doesn't matter your status, we'll have mug shots ready for you. Let me say that last statement again. He said, we'll have mug shots ready for you, end quote. Who's going to arrest Donald Trump, fingerprint him, and do the mug shot? A man named Labat. Now, given the security dynamic, Patrick Labat, the sheriff, may have an issue with Secret Service. We know that Manhattan DA had basically a negotiation with Secret Service, all in the name of security. There's more. Sheriff Labat's remarks raised the prospect that a former president could be booked at the county jail near downtown Atlanta. But it remains to be seen whether the Secret Service would weigh in and alter the sheriff's plans should an indictment of Mr. Trump come to pass. Now, let me say this. How can the Secret Service alter a constitutionally mandated process? Remember, an elected sheriff in the state of Georgia is a constitutional authority. That constitutional authority serves by way of the state constitution. To override a constitutional authority, it requires the highest court in the state to do so. That is not the Secret Service. So it would be quite interesting to see what kind of argument they would make that could override the elected sheriff of the local county in which a person is indicted. I thought people were not above the law. Let's put up the woman prosecuting this case, Fonnie Willis, the elected DA. The elected DA has been receiving significant threat to her personal safety, as you can imagine. She travels in the city and beyond with an entourage out of necessity for her safety. This is not a game. The message called Willis a corrupt racial expletive and threatened, "You are going to fail, you Jim Crow Democrat blank." Willis explained to the group that the message went to, "I am sending to you," talking about her colleagues in justice, "I am sending to you in case you are unclear on what I and my staff have come accustomed to over the last 2.5 years. I guess I'm sending this as a reminder that you should stay alert over the month of August and stay safe." She ended the note, quote, "I took an oath. No one other than the citizens of Fulton County put me in this seat. I have every intention of doing my job. Please make decisions that keep your staff safe." Now, is Donald Trump saying to his followers, don't threaten district attorneys? Don't threaten members of her staff who are simply doing their job. Do not act violently on my behalf. This is not democracy. Is he saying anything like this? Of course not. So since Donald Trump will not provide basic courtesy, why should the sheriff provide extended courtesy? Here's what Trump said to his new indictment from the Department of Justice. Let's put it up. So Trump went on another rant. Basically, the first part says blah, blah, blah. But let me read to you the third paragraph. I think it's quite interesting. He says the answer is election interference. The lawlessness of these persecutions of President Trump and his supporters is reminiscent of Nazi Germany in the 1930s, the former Soviet Union, and other authoritarian dictatorial regimes. President Trump has always followed the law and Constitution with advice from many highly accomplished attorneys. These un-American witch hunts will fail, and President Trump will be re-elected to the White House so he can save our country from the abuse, incompetence, and corruption that is running through the veins of our country at levels never seen before. Well, they posted this on Truth Social. It is the campaign of Trump. I am sure Trump is the one typing. Let's put up Mike Pence. Mike Pence, the former vice president of President Donald Trump, the man that Donald Trump tried to get assassinated. What did Mike Pence say? Mike Pence said, today's indictment serves as an important reminder. Anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States, end quote. Mike, let me say this, man. I hope Trump doesn't become president because he may try to do something to you. Sir, the way you are going about your back and forth with the guy who tried to kill you is insane to me. You, out of everyone running, you are the guy who literally knows everything. You know it all. You know so damn much, they're afraid to put you on the stand because that's how much you know. You have no constitutional protections. You're a VP. You're not even listed. You have zero constitutional protections. You don't even get to declassify stuff, sir. So let's be clear. If you want to run for president, Mike Pence, run for president. There's more. Pence also said our country is more important than one man. Our Constitution is more important than one man's career. On January 6th, the former president, Trump, demanded that I choose between him and the Constitution. The Constitution and I always will. I chose the Constitution, I always will. No, so you chose Dan Quayle, sir. You chose Dan Quayle. You called Dan, we know, man. It's already out there, it's in the streets. You called Dan Quayle and you said, listen, Dan, is there any way that I can possibly do this and get away with it? And Dan said, if you do it, you're going to prison, Mike. That's what's going to happen. If you do this, you're going to be arrested. So Mike then decided to be super constitutional Mike Pence. There you go. Marjorie Taylor Greene, what does she have to say about this? Marjorie Taylor Greene, US Congresswoman out of the state of Georgia. She said, quote, I would still vote for Trump even if he's in jail. This is a communist attack on America's First Amendment to vote for who the people want for president by an attempt to take Trump off the ballots through a politically weaponized DOJ. People know exactly what this is. End quote. Ironic, isn't it? Donald Trump literally won a campaign for president based on the idea of weaponizing the DOJ against his political opponents. Lock her up was a weaponization of the Department of Justice against a political opponent. He ran on that, had people chant lock her up, and won. You see, his followers are actually okay with weaponizing the Department of Defense against their political enemies. They are okay with electing individuals who will flat out say, we're going to weaponize law enforcement against political enemies. When Trump was president of the United States, the man tried to recruit another foreign head of state in order to investigate political opponents in America. This not only had to happen, should have happened while he was in office. Mike Pence all of a sudden has a backbone. Chris Christie all of a sudden found his backbone. But the reality is these men were well aware of who was in charge of this nation for 4 years. They backed it because it gave them access to power. Their real true north, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to say this, it is not you. It is not the American people. It is their proximity to power. All right, my dear sister, thoughts here.
Oh, I have quite a few. Okay, so I'll start off with this. First and foremost, Mr. Trump is a defendant, and so he should be treated as defendants are treated, which means you get a mugshot, you get fingerprinted, you are booked, right? And the reason why I think that is important is because so many American people right now feel that our justice system is a sham and it doesn't work as it's supposed to work, right? It is one-sided and lopsided. We know from experience that the scales of justice are not balance. So I think by making him go through the process as a criminal defendant would, I think that reinstates confidence in what our system of justice is about and the criminal procedures that should be followed when you have a defendant. So that's first and foremost. Second, what I would say is that I think we need to do this because his base does not think this is real, right? Trump supporters think that he's just being attacked and it's a witch hunt and this, that, and the third. And because he has not been held accountable by having a mugshot, by having to do fingerprinting and all of that, it makes it easier for them to accept that fallacy. But the reality is that these are real charges, okay? And these prosecutors are people who their jobs and their careers are on the line and they are here to serve the American people. And with that being said, let's not forget that at least 3 of the prosecutors right now who have filed charges against Trump or have charges pending are Black.
Yep.
Right. So we also need to validate that, and that this has everything to do with the fact that Trump has allegedly broken the law. And he has violated the rights of the American people's civil rights. And I say that to say that for everyone to love the Constitution so much and be so supportive of the Constitution, you should have a problem with the fact that Trump went against the Constitution in order to try to keep power when he was not elected to power. And that goes to Marjorie Lomarmar, her point of view, right? Saying that this is what the people want, this is what the people voted for. Let's check the facts, baby, because in 2016, when he did win, it wasn't by the people's vote, by the popular vote. He won due to the Electoral College. So let's keep the facts, which is why we need this process to happen. And on that, the last thing I'll say is that as colored people of color, right? The global majority, we've been telling y'all that law enforcement was for a minute, but nobody wanted to hear us, right? When we were saying it, it was nah, y'all playing, right? Y'all just playing victim. Y'all need to get out of the past. But now that you are feeling the justice, now you are feeling what it feels like to be a defendant, to have to explain to your family what could potentially happen, to face losing your businesses, to face losing money, right? Now it's real. Now you don't like it. But when you was on the trail, on the campaign trail, right? When you get up on that stage, you was quick, Mr. Trump, right? Defended Trump, to get on that stage and praise law enforcement for praising broken windows, right? For praising Terry stops and things like that. But now it's you and we wrong. Pick a side, the hypocrisy, pick a side.
Exactly. If they would have rocked with us in 1958, 1961, 1972, hell, 1988. If they would have chosen any of the years and said, we think there should be more transparency in grand jury proceedings. Guess what? You would have had more transparency today in grand jury proceedings. We actually agree on some concepts. The contextualization is a little different.